Welcome to the 24K Life Podcast. I am your host, Derick Gant, the Money Coach. We are broadcasting across the globe to help every man, woman, and child ready to go through the fire that will turn them into pure gold. We call it cracking your code. Cracking your code is when you figure out how to eliminate the impurities like limiting beliefs, personal blocks, not being, feeling like you're not being loved, addictions, and other things that you feel like are holding you back. Our job, our expertise, our intent is to bring you incredible, amazing people from all over the world that bring insights, tools, and techniques that you can use to help you transform, elevate, to become that pure gold. Today, we have Paul Zolman, and Paul is an extraordinary man because Paul is the international best-selling author of, drum roll, of The Role of Love. Now, we know most women think they dominate this area of expertise, but the true author of Love is God. In his wisdom, he has placed us in a variety of circumstances that require us to find our way back. These are the words of Mr. Zolman. So, Paul, welcome to the 24K Life Podcast.
Thank you, Derek. So nice to be here. Appreciate the invitation.
Well, we are happy to have you here. When I met you, I said, I don't want to know anything more. You are the guy, the love guy, and I want to know more about what you've come up with. And you've come up with some interesting thoughts about the 5 love languages. Why don't you just jump feet first right into the pool? I know it's a little cold, but jump in and tell us like what you figured out that the rest of us are still working on.
So, Derek, about 15 years ago, I was dating a lady that I was starting to get serious with. I had been through a divorce, and my sister thought I was lonely. She introduced me to this lady. I was living 7 hours away, so it was like destination dating. And I just come off a year and a half of destination dating to where I was in one city, she was in another city. We'd pick a city, meet, and have a date. And I did that in several cities for a year and a half, spent more than $10,000. I went to Daytona Beach and Orlando and Atlanta, Georgia, New York City, Cabo San Lucas, Phoenix, Salt Lake City.
Wow.
All those places for dates and looking for love, obviously in all the wrong places. I didn't find anything. So here is this neighbor of my sister, because my sister thinks I'm really lonely. Here's that neighbor, and we start to correspond a little bit, start to like each other. And so I decided to move up to where she's at. And so I moved up, and we got just became a little bit more chummy that way. Thought it was a good idea for us to decide to pursue the relationship. So I'm number 10 of 11 children, Derek, and so I always had to have big brother approval. I'm the youngest boy. And so I needed to take this lady up to my brother's house, 300 miles north, for that big brother approval. When I walked in the door with this woman, my sister-in-law pulled her aside and said point blank, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up is anger. At first I did not. I said, then it made me mad.
You proved your point.
Yeah, whoa. She's spot on. I thought, if that's the perception of the Zolman family, and it was, if that's the perception, I had a perfect opportunity right then and there to decide to try to change that. So I started reading the color code. I started reading the 5 love languages and really liked the 5 love languages. Mm-hmm. I loved it, how Dr. Chapman put it together and just discovered that the love languages. I did not understand the application. You need to understand, though, and your audience needs to understand that I came from a childhood of abuse.
Okay.
So that childhood had residual anger just from that childhood. I was blaming my father up until about age 35 for all of the relationship problems. Everything that had gone wrong in my life was because I was brought up like that.
So were you blaming your father consciously or subconsciously?
Both.
Okay. Like that bastard. That
Yeah.
does it.
So what would happen, Derek, is that I would have annoyance and then stack it with another annoyance and then stack it with another annoyance and stack it with another, and then I'd flash. And it was just, that's kind of the way people just, somebody does something that bugs you, they said, that bugs me. And then you'd be annoyed, and then something else happens, and pretty soon you're having a bad day.
Right.
But I blame all that on my dad. That was my dad's fault. He made that, he trained me to look in that direction, look at the bad things that people are doing. And I thought, I've got to change this. And so look, and reading through the principles of the love languages, I love that. But I couldn't, I'm a bad guesser, Derek. And if I was to guess what your love language is and cater to it, according to Dr. Chapman, we're going to be buddies.
Right.
I'm a horrible guesser. I really can't do it. So that didn't work for me. So the other thing Dr. Chapman has in his book is that, well, if you take this survey, you can find out what your love language is.
Right.
And then what? What do I do with that?
Cater to that.
Advertise? Hello, Derek.
You have to have this woman that you meet take it also. So then you go, aha.
Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. But
okay.
Hello, Derek, I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? That's just a little bit awkward to tell somebody what your love language is. Just a little. So, and it inadvertently created this little pity party that says, well, I told you what my love language is. How come you're not catering to it? How come you're not doing it?
Right.
And so I thought, that's got to end. So I said, what am I in charge of? And I realized that I'm in charge of sending love out. I have absolutely zero power or zero ability to bid anybody to love me. And if I do, it's almost that they might do it out of duty.
Right.
And it creates that pity party. So I realized I only have control over giving it out. And then I realized, oh, I do also have control over responding when it comes my way. So I contacted Dr. Chapman, and I had a thought. When I was younger, even in these abusive circumstances, when I was younger, our family used to get together and we'd play games. And it was kind of a happy time, but it was really challenging. And everybody's dog eat dog, and it's
very competitive.
It's abusive. We're abusing one another, and it was fun. It was great times in that way, in a fun way, not a wacky way, but in a really fun way. And it's just like the locker room for guys. I mean, it was that kind of thing, and it was enjoyable for me at least. So I liked the games. And I thought, maybe Dr. Chapman would license those icons they had for the love languages. So I contacted him and asked him. Thankfully, he said no. They're dated. They're kind of ugly anyway. And I thought, I'm going to make my own. And so I went to a copyright attorney here in town, intellectual property attorney. He said that theory is not copyrightable.
Okay.
Application is. So I thought, well, I can make my own icons. I can make it a game. And so that's what I did. So I put the icons on a dice. So there you have, they have time, the service, the words, touch, and gifts. So all 5 love languages are on this dice. There's 6 sides on the dice. This one is surprise me.
Surprise me.
So on that day, you're just doing random acts of kindness. Just 2 instructions, Derek. You roll the die every day. That's the love language practice giving away all day that day.
Wow, really?
All day. So no longer is it a part-time job of just your significant other, because you're not with your significant other all day long.
Right.
If you were, then you could be loving all day long. But that significant other time is kind of part-time. Maybe it's at home, and then you go to work and you forget, oh, I'm supposed to be loving. And then you come home and then you forget, oh, I'm supposed to be loving. And then it's just back and forth. It's better to have it more consistent. So I developed this when I was single. And so I had to.
So you developed the die when you were single?
Correct. All the
really
artwork and the die.
Okay.
So about 15 years ago, I was working on it, and I got the copyright in 2017. So been working with is all this time trying to overcome that residual anger that I had left over from the childhood, trying to be a better person. I like to explain it like this, Derick, that I was out walking around in my neighborhood the other day, and I found a stick. This stick, and it didn't have any bark on it at all. It's perfect, like walking stick.
Right.
One side of the stick, it's really nice. I mean, you could put your hand on there, and you're not going to get anything. It's just really super nice.
Right.
But on the other end of the stick, it's got some points and everything. This is what I call the naughty side of the stick. It's the nice side. So it's my naughty and nice stick. And I know that Santa Claus has a stick just like that.
Absolutely.
So I realized after I went and visited that brother and sister-in-law that the anger and the things that I learned as a child were on the naughty side of the stick. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting to me that a realization that I came to is that until you realize where you're at on that spectrum from anger to love, using that as a spectrum, you can make a lot of spectrums. But when you realize where you're at on a spectrum, you've got three choices. You can stay the same, you can move to the left, or move to the right.
Right.
And I decided at that point in time that I wanted to learn the love languages. Anger by itself has a culture all by itself. It has words, it has mannerisms, it has humor, it has all those things all grouped together, almost like a culture. So does the love languages. And that's why they kind of call it the love languages. It's a culture all by itself. The humor and the words that you use and the kindness that's sent out on that end of the spectrum. So I needed to learn that. What happened in my life is I learned the angry side of the spectrum first.
Unfortunately. Now, did you have a mom or somebody that was kind of counterbalancing your dad's anger and abuse?
Well, yes and no. Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about that. I had a grandfather in the late 1800s that lived in Indiana, close to kind of where you're at there, and he had 9 children with his wife there, and then the wife suddenly passed away. He was so distraught after the 9th child. So he was so distraught about that he decided he would sell the home, he would sell the farm, sell the equipment, and then when the people came to the auction or to pick up their equipment, he said, would you like this child? And would you like this child? And would you like this child? He gave all the children away except for one and moved to Montana.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. So, and they found another wife, had 10 more children, of which my father is number 6 of that second 10.
Wow. That's the craziest story I've ever heard.
So my father was born in 1922. When he was 10 years old, that grandfather passed away. His father passed away. Mm-hmm. 10 years old, born in 1922, that puts him in 1932, the Great Depression.
Right.
So not only do you have abandonment of 19 children in that 20-year period, you've got all that abandonment, but you've got the economic issues and the social issues and just problems galore. So in that in those circumstances, my father was only able to finish 8th grade. Was never able to do anything else. Became a truck driver. He was gone on the during the week and home on the weekends. One thing about my father I really admire that he every Friday dated my mom.
Okay.
Every Friday. I mean, it was a date, but the venue was always the same, and the venue wasn't the greatest. It was the Maverick Bar, and it was always over alcohol. And so just as couples do right now today, they'll say, how was your day? How was your day? How was your week? How was your week? And then they just let go and just kind of catch up with each other. Mm-hmm. So that was happening, I imagine, at the Maverick Bar. I never went on a date with them together, but I'm imagining that what's happened because of the results. So what would happen is that under the influence of alcohol, my father would either get angry or just get very relaxed. And when most of the time it was angry, because I remember fearing for the weekends, that the weekends, everybody usually look forward to the weekends as a kid because you don't have school, you don't have all these other stresses of life that you normally would have. I didn't look forward to the weekends at all.
Right.
It was just really a hard time. So my mother disgorging all the things that happened. If you were on the top of the list, you were in bad shape, because
Now, how many siblings do you have?
I'm number 10 of 11 children.
You're 10 of 11. So your dad just repeated what his dad did.
Kind of.
Not all the way, but a little bit.
Yeah, I'm an underachiever, Derek. I only had 8.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I can't wait to hear about your family reunions. Jeez Louise.
So anyway, so my mother is kind of in on this whole deal of the abuse just by disgorging, and she may have innocently enough did not know that would be the result.
Right.
But there were times, Derek, that I remember. In fact, one time in particular, I remember being black and blue on my rear for about 3 weeks. It just I don't know. I don't remember if it was a belt or if it was a spanking or what exactly it was, but I was just bruised that way. The bad thing about it was that the punishment and the action were so far apart that I only remember the punishment.
Exactly.
I have absolutely no idea what I did.
Yeah, I grew up in one of those houses that was said, wait till your father gets home. But man, he was coming home at 4 or 5 o'clock. He wasn't coming home on Friday. So I get that. That's terrible to have to get punished for something that happened, that from one person's perspective of what might have happened anyway, 4 days later.
Yeah, and it was compounded. So everything, it was all stacked up, just like I taught you about the annoyances stacking up. It was everything stacked up for the whole week, and then just.
So, fast forward to the day, and did you practice each of the 5 love languages before you made the dice or the die?
No, and that's a very good question. I did not, only because even after reading the book 4 or 5 times, it seemed to me like it was very confusing, and I couldn't tell which direction Dr. Chapman was going with it. Now, is this the giver or is this the receiver? Is the survey what I like, or is it what I should be giving away? And so it seemed like there were 10 love languages, and just the direction of it just really confused me. And consider where I came from, though. I had no idea what love was in the first place. Not really. Yeah, so I didn't even know. So even more confusing was that. But now you got the directions. You got me telling people how I want to be loved, and you're calling that love. Well, I grew up in an abusive home. That doesn't sound like love to me if you happen to manipulate someone to love you.
Sounds like a command and a trick.
Exactly. So that didn't sound like love at all. So I realized that when we give love without any expectation of it coming back, that's the true love. If we're expecting, we have our love language that we know, if we're giving that away, expecting that reciprocity, that's not love. It's a transaction.
Right.
Transactions are not love. If you're making a deal, say, well, honey, I'm going to spend $500 on this, and that'll give you $500 to spend on that. That's a transaction. That's really not love.
Right.
And I guess you can make deals, but it's not like make a deal. It's not the show. You're not.
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying that, which I don't disagree with, but it sounds like you're saying, we really should be geared like extensively on unconditional love.
Well, it's unconditional, but you're giving it away. You're watching for opportunities. And let me just clarify that a little bit.
But if you're not watching for opportunities, or if you are watching for opportunities, then it's no longer unconditional. It's going back to being transactional.
That makes sense. Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
Yeah. So that's tough. I mean, I agree with you, and I've recognized that dilemma as well. It's like, well, I did such and such. What do you, how come you're not being nicer to me? So let me ask you about the dice or the die. You roll it every day. You have 10 siblings. Your sister-in-law outed you on this first date, or not the first date, on this date. Were you able to influence any of your siblings with this new discovery of and learning and insights about yourself and love and the way you grew up?
That's a funny question, but it's a very good question. Let me tell you why it's funny to me, because I'm the youngest kid. I don't know jack tiddly squat. They know everything. They're older,
Of course.
they're wiser and everything. So me advising them really doesn't work. Doesn't go down well. But what I found is that as I've rolled the die over a 30-day period, it's all it took, just as enough time to make it a habit. I learned all the 5 love languages. Back to your other question about learning the 5 love languages. That's when I started learning, is when I started rolling the die. And so I had a prototype. I made a huge prototype, which is a big 2-inch or 2.5-inch block of wood, and then put the different icons on it. And the thing, it had such sharp corners that it wouldn't roll.
Okay.
I could have. It was like a weighted dice. If I wanted touch that day, I knew how to get touch. And it just wasn't working real well. So then I had this made. This one's just like 1 inch by 1 inch die. But over that 30 days, learning how to give it away, I learned all 5 love languages backwards and forwards. I knew what it meant. I knew what kind of activities could be associated with that type of love, giving it away, enough that it improved my vision so that I could see it when it comes my way. Even though it might not be my primary love language, I say, oh, they're loving on me. It's kind of over here, not my primary love language, but I can respond knowing that's love that they're sending my way. Respond appropriately. I think that's really where couples need to go. They need to understand that it's not my primary love language, but they're loving on me and I need to respond appropriately.
Nice. So what about, when you made this die, you were single. So what about the touch? What about the gift giving? I mean, how did you handle that when you were rolling this die and you're single? How do you handle some of the languages that probably require a partner?
Well, on the touch, you're doing the high fives, the fist bumps, and pats on the back, and that's probably more like a workplace type thing.
Okay,
but you're still doing that, and you can play sports, any type of sports. You can do the big chest bump when you're make a touchdown or whatever, or you make a 3-point shot. Anything like that would be still physical touch. So it moves away from intimate physical touch to just any kind of physical touch.
Okay.
But it's got to be loving. I had a family that I tested this with, Derick, just while we're on physical touch, and they had five children, just a small family.
You'd consider my family non-existent. I have 2 boys.
No, you're good. You're good. So this family of five children, the youngest of 4 years old and a boy. And one day he rolled physical touch, and he jumps up and down, pumping his fist like this, said, "Yes, physical touch," and immediately went to beat up on his brothers.
I love it.
The mother had to kind of suppress the laughter and say, "Son, that's not exactly what we have in mind for this." And it was a perfect teaching moment. So the nice thing about this is that you see it has all pictures on it. There's absolutely no words at all. So with that, you can teach these young children. Everybody understands the picture. In fact, that's how they learn how to read verses. They see the pictures and they know what's coming next.
Right.
So these sweet young children, consider putting it in the school system. They roll it at the beginning of the day. The first graders, the whole class rolls it. They'll roll it as a class. And then as you're teaching them, take a minute to say, this is kind of what we're looking for this day. Watch for these opportunities. At the end of the day, I've created a journal that they can put what they rolled, opportunities they saw to love in that way, and what they did about those opportunities. So now these children are accountable for their actions.
Right.
Whereas before they had to blame someone else. They could blame someone. When you blame someone, you're not responsible. It's their fault.
Exactly.
You don't have to change. You don't have to do anything. But now they're responsible. So on a pass-fail basis, I got a franchisee of Yogurtland in my local town here that is, if they'll do it for 15 days, they get 5 ounces of yogurt for free.
Really?
If they'll journalize their love for 25 days, which would be a full month of school, they get 10 ounces for free. And he's sponsoring it, kind of collaborating with me to do something like that. And it's just working fabulous. These kids are really motivated. And I talked to some of the kids that did it last year, a little toward the end of last year. They said it was really fun. Just
what grades are you talking about? Just out of curiosity.
It's K through 6 is the most effective, because K through 6, they're mostly in the same classroom at the beginning of the day and the end of the day.
Gotcha.
If you start changing the classes, then it kind of gets lost in the translation.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Well, I'm glad I asked that question, because it's a great idea. And what a great learning tool to the addition of normal traditional education.
Well, it's innocuous almost. It takes 2 seconds to roll the die, and maybe a few more seconds to explain this is what we're doing today, class. Less than a minute at the beginning of the day, not taking any time away from the teacher at all. I mean, they could be trudging to their seat, not get to their seat, and take a whole minute to get to their seat. You're just not wasting in the time at all. At the end of the day, think of this: they're anxious. They've been there all day long. That last 10 to 15 minutes is mostly non-productive time anyway. Mm-hmm. If they get in trouble, who's going to stay after? The teacher's going to stay after? No, I don't think so.
Exactly.
So the teacher's not going to punish themselves and punish people at the last 10, 15 minutes. So make that the journal writing time.
And it's perfect. And then they get yogurt for it. Frozen yogurts. Who doesn't want frozen yogurt? Well,
and there's one more thing. One more bonus is that just think back to your first grade class. If you would have had a love journal like this, and it's all that, it's just a love journal, what you loved or what you saw that was lovable and what you did about that situation. Wouldn't you love to have that to show your two boys that?
I would love to have that, just as a reflection of my own personal growth and insights and my original nature when I was young and innocent. And
there you go.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I love it. What an ingenious idea. And so what attracted you? Was it that aha with your sister-in-law that said, I need to just dig deeper? And then when you decided to dig deeper, this is the fruit of that process?
Absolutely. This is it. And, I and the desire, I had the deep desire really to get over those flashes, get over the time of being even annoyed. So now I don't even get annoyed. People are doing whatever we're going to do. Then say, oh, you're doing that? And it's just, oh, okay, that's your choice. But I'm not going to be participating in that. I'm choosing to love, and I'm watching for opportunities. I got so busy watching for opportunities to love that I forgot all about what's wrong with that person and then go down that critical path. You never get there when you're watching for what's right with that person. It's like the two ends of the stick. You can only hold, basically, we can hold both ends of the stick, but that people call you bipolar because you've got both ends of the stick and you're vacillating back and forth.
Right.
You best off just holding, when you hold one end of the stick, you're holding the other end of the stick. You've heard all that, but I just thought it would be best to focus on that. And it was so easy. It was so easy to overcome. I'm not kidding you. It took me just 30 days to overcome that tendency to flash, the tendency to have those annoyances stack up.
Right.
The tendency to be angry in any way, shape, or form. It just,
wow. Well, for those of you that are on Apple Podcast or Spotify or some of the other iHeartRadio, we are flashing up how to get a hold of this amazing die with the 5 love languages and a 6th pick your own special way to love. Go to www.rolloflove.com. It's ROLEOFLOVE.com. And you can grab one of these. Now, I am going to obviously get one because it is a super easy, incredibly impactful thing to do in your life for yourself and your loved ones and your family. Now, in addition to that, I'm telling you, Paul, I have a connection to the local school system.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty good one. And I am going to order the book, the journal book, and the die, and see how that goes and see if we can get that into K through 6, because I think it's incredible. And I think that every kid should do that.
So as far as the journal goes in the school system, what I'm doing for the schools is just offering, I'm offering them just the PDF to have them just in their school system print as many copies as you'd like.
It's unique. That way you can control it. That's awesome.
That's right. So, and I'm not really controlling the copyright that way. I'm just handing it out, authorizing them to make their own copies that way, and then so they only need the die. And I'm helping them in that regard as well.
Well, I can honestly say that this is just a super unique idea. I hope that at some point you have an opportunity, if you've not already had one, and if you have, tell us about it, to do a TED Talk on this concept, because it is unique. Obviously somebody created the 5 love languages, but to take it to the level that you are, and TEDx talks are about changing the world, ideas that change the world. I've done a couple TED Talks, so I'm pretty familiar with it. And I think you would be great with your die and your story and the results and the impact of touching our K through 6 youths. I just think it's absolutely incredible.
Well, thank you very much, Derick. I appreciate that vote of confidence. I haven't really looked into TED Talks yet at all. I'm working on an app, and then I'm working on workshops at this moment. But I imagine the TED Talks will come eventually. But it's just I'm just a one-man show right now.
Nope, I understand. Just keep moving forward, and we are the benefactors of the work that you're doing. And when I say we, I mean the entire community, the community of men that have been hiding their love languages and don't have any clue about them, about the young kids, and of course women as well. And to learn more than just your love language never dawned on me, and I've been taking that quiz for years. So I applaud you for the depth that you've gone and the results that you have derived. So keep going forward. We appreciate you, and we thank you for that time that you've put in.
Thank you, Derick. One other thing I want to just mention, that instead of stopping a relationship, you're trying to have a relationship, instead of stopping the relationship and saying, excuse me, I just want to know how to love you. Could you take this survey so I could know how to love you?
Right.
You don't have to do that anymore. So, and I'm sure maybe you didn't do it before.
No, it was just out of curiosity, in the beginning. But you're right. Don't stop it. Just start learning all of them.
So what you do while you're loving in that genre for the day, you're watching for people that light up. Mm-hmm. And when they light up, that's where you take the mental note. Oh, that's what they like. That might be one of their primary love languages. Right. Just wash, rinse, repeat. Do that over and over again. And that's how you develop the relationships. So it's more, I call it in the book that I wrote, I call it the role of observation. You're just watching for those opportunities. And when I say those opportunities, that's what you're watching. This is a game that everybody wins. You're winning because you're sending out that love and lighting people up. You're making their day a better day, and they're going to pass that on to other people within their circle of influence, making their days better days. If somebody comes back right at you with anger, Derick, you're sending it right back. You get an instant return on their investment. You've made their day a bad day. They're going to pass that misery on to other people.
Right.
Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Just forget that. Stop it. And then start loving in a better way. This is a tiny, one of those things that's a tiny, tiny investment that has huge returns.
I agree. Thank you so much, Paul. We appreciate you, and we're going to make sure that we put all of your connections inside the details and the bio of our YouTube, of our Spotify, Apple podcast, so that more people can get a hold of you.
Thank you, Derick.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll be right back.
All right.
Well, you know what? It's encouraging. It is definitely encouraging to have a man talk about the love languages with confidence, talk about overcoming his anger and abusive upbringing, to talk about feelings and things that not only help himself, but help the world. I encourage you to order one of these amazing die. Go to rolloflove.com and check it out. Order the book, order the die, and then actually use it. We always look to find these type of tools, techniques, and insights to help us improve our life, improve our love, improve our relationships so that we can live our best life possible. I'm Derick Gant. I want you to like, share, and subscribe if you found some value here. And we ask that you be your best, bring your best, leave nothing to chance.